Part 2. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 11. Chapter 11, Add Something. Hand vegetables are blood red in color, a little slippery when eaten, and have a particularly good texture. Most people like to eat this kind of dish, and it doesn't have any peculiar smell. It is tender, and the green leaves have red patterns on them, which is very pleasing to the eye. Those who have been in business for a long time like Boss Zhu must not grow vegetables at home. Mei Shui's dishes were noticed by the surrounding vendors as soon as they were put out. Especially the corn. After the pig proprietress bought it, the owner of the chicken and duck shop opposite her also came over. "Little girl, how do you sell these vegetables?" Ever since he started doing business, he hadn't eaten such juicy vegetables for a long time. "My mother used to farm some land, but now that she is old, she followed them to live in the town. There is no place for her to farm anymore, and all the vegetables at home are bought from outside. When they finish their business, they go to buy vegetables. Those vegetables are all leftovers from other people's selections. How can they be fresh? What do you think the boss likes? I picked these vegetables this morning. Look, they are all very fresh and tender." Mei Shui immediately praised her vegetables. "As for the corn, my eldest sister counts it, it's 30 cents per caddy. This is early corn, it's plump and full of pulp, it's very sweet, it's good for both the elderly and children. The peppers are also chosen to be just ripe, not to mention tender, not yet green, and the price is not expensive, 8 points. If it's eggplant, it's just a dime. The sweat dish is a bit cheaper, give it a 5 point, it's a bit cheaper than the chili pepper." Mei Shui's quotation was calculated by Grandma He herself. It was based on the price she casually asked when she went shopping in town last time. Mai Xue couldn't understand at the time why her grandma only asked but didn't buy it. Now it seems that her grandma had already made up her mind. When the chicken boss heard this, he realized that the price was indeed as high as his mother-in-law's price for buying leftovers. "That's it, give me some of everything. There are many people at home. Don't sell the corn. Give it all to me. We all eat peppers. Give me 3 kilograms. The eggplants are really tender, so give me 4 or 5. The chicken boss broke an eggplant in half, took a bite, and tasted it. It was indeed good. It is sweat vegetable. It is good and has the effect of replenishing blood. It is perfect for the elderly and children. Bring more vegetables, it can last for a day or two. This day give me half of it." Chicken boss is a big customer, and Mei Shui is very good at doing things. When Boss Chicken asked, she started to help him put the dishes aside. "It's time to weigh him now. The corn weighs 17 kilograms and 3 taels, so the boss is 17 kilograms. After saying that, Mei Shui put the corn into the empty basket and picked up the eggplants. She took 4 first, looked at the scale, and then picked them up again. "The eggplant weighs 3 kilograms or 3 taels, so boss, you are 3 kilograms. Mei Shui also imitated Boss Zhu just now and lifted the scale. 5 jins of peppers and 3 jins of vegetables. After weighing all the vegetables and showing them to the chicken boss, Mei Shui began to count the money. Seeing the chicken boss nod, Mei Shui smiled and said the price, a total of 5 yuan and 95 cents. Such a lot of things only cost 5 yuan, and Mei Shui's heart was bleeding. According to her, these are priceless treasures. The chicken boss also frowned, but didn't say much. "Okay, I'll go back and get you the money." Mei Shui is also a smart person. When the chicken boss said this, she also picked up a basket and said, "Then I will give it to the boss and you can take it back. Even if the road is not far, the service must be in place." Sure enough, the chicken boss smiled, "Okay." When he came to his stall, he loudly called to the people in the room, "Yuelen, come out and pay for the vegetables." Soon, a woman who was plucking chickens came out of the house. There was some blood on her body. She must have been killing chickens or repairing chickens and ducks just now. What's wrong? Where did you go to buy groceries at this time? The woman opened her mouth and asked as soon as she came out. The chicken boss was also very patient in explaining to his wife. When the landlady heard this, she said, "That's a good feeling. Let me take a look." When she saw the juicy vegetables in the basket, she looked happy and said, "There will be corn now. It's not bad. The little girl will give you money." After saying that, he took out the money from his pocket. "Hand each $5 sheet to Mei Shui, thank you, little girl." Those who do business may be used to smiling at people. Mei Shui took out 5 cents from her arms and gave it to the chicken shop lady. "You're welcome, auntie, wherever you want to put this, I'll send it to you." "No, no, just put it here and I'll take it in later." And Chicken stopped her with a polite look. However, Mei Shui didn't really intend to go in. After all, there was someone else's home behind, so how could she really go in? "That's it, then I'll leave it here for you, and..." In just a short time, Mei Shui's vegetables have been sold half or 2/3, which is really a happy thing. There are many stalls around. Mei Shui plans to wait a little longer. If no one comes to buy yet, she will go to those stalls and sell the vegetables. Finally able to go out for a walk by herself, she had to look around. There are many people coming here to buy meat, and vegetables. Seeing the small vegetable stall of Mixu, everyone looked at the dishes that were very juicy. 1 caddy of this one, 2 caddies of that one, and soon the last order was sold out. Mei Shui estimated the time and found that it was only more than an hour, which was really satisfying. After selling out, Mei Shui counted the money and found that the total sold was about 7 or 8 yuan. This reminded her again of her large bucket of eels, which cost 30 yuan. "Wow, this life is not easy. Thank you, boss, I've sold out all my vegetables." Mei Shui closed the stall and thanked Boss Pig and Boss Chicken who bought their own vegetables in the first place. Zhu Boss smiled and nodded in response. There were people in front of his stall. There were few people on the chicken boss side, so he shouted to Bangxiu, "Sister, next time you come to sell vegetables, bring some food to my house. We are so busy that we don't have time to go out and buy it." "That's a good feeling. I'll come here to sell the next big collection," Mei Shui responded with a smile on her face. Carrying 2 empty baskets, Mei Shui walked towards Aunt Mei Lian. "I don't know how Aunt Mei Lian is doing." Mixu didn't expect that not long after the rain stopped, her vegetables would be sold out. "I have to say that the people in the town are really rich. Unlike in the village, every household eats what they grow at home." Walking all the way to the vegetable field, Mei Shui stopped when she saw the supply and marketing cooperative. "I thought that when I went out early today, I only had a pair of raincoats at home, not even an umbrella. They were all bamboo hats made by the old people in the village. Each one can be used for several years. There are a lot of bamboos on the mountain. If you bring a few back, you can make a bamboo hat in a few days. Like the stools at home and the bamboo bed for sleeping outside in summer, these are all made by my own family. I have to say that everyone in the village is a master." End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 12. Chapter 12, No Need to Endure. Looking at the door of the supply and marketing cooperative, Mei Shui walked in carrying a basket. There is not much rain this season, but it does happen from time to time. There are 2 people in the family now, so it is impossible to use one set of raincoats all the time. There is also an umbrella for going out, something Mei Shui disliked very much before, but now, she can't get it even if she asks for it. There are also grandma's shoes. Mei Shui is wearing an old lady's high rain boots. Let's not worry about whether they fit her feet. What will grandma do if she wears them? So, I have to buy rain boots. There are also clothes. Grandma's clothes are all patched. Since she recognizes Grandma, Mei Shui will keep her in her heart. As I walked, I was figuring out what I wanted to buy. Finally, when she saw the fluffy white cotton, Mei Shui couldn't walk. How do you sell this? Mei Shui opened her mouth and asked the person talking at the same time. The man glanced at Mei Shui and then turned around, continuing to chat with others. Of course, she finally said the price, 8 cents. The price was quite acceptable to Mei Shui, but she saw many people around her looking disgusted, but their eyes were full of envy. It seems like it's better that grandma is here, Mei Shui muttered. Can you give me 30 pounds, such a good thing, the quilt on her bed should be replaced. There are also the quilts in grandma's room. They have turned into hard stones and she still can't bear to throw them away. Seeing that the old man was so frugal but agreed that his grandson would give the original owner so much money, Mei Shui felt very sad. When the cotton seller heard this, he laughed and said, "How much do you want?" 30 kilograms. Mei Shui was in a bad mood now and didn't want to quarrel with her. Give me some more cloth. The cyan one and the dark blue one are enough for 2 sets of clothes. No way, Mei Shui can't make clothes herself, so she can only repay her like this. Are you wearing it? That person also knew how to look at people's faces, and when she saw Mei Shui's face, she didn't dare not be concerned. Almost, just throw it in a little bit. Mei Shui almost couldn't stop buying it. Had her basket not been almost full, she would have wanted to continue buying. She felt that grandma was lacking everything she saw. I tore off the fabric of my clothes, and 2 more quilts, and bought a pair of high-top oil shoes and a set of raincoats. Seeing those ancient plastic sandals, Mei Shui also bought a pair. Grandma's feet were 1 size larger than hers. She still knew this because she was wearing her grandma's shoes. Since she had never experienced this kind of life, Mei Shui bought everything she thought she should buy. Putting it in her own basket, she turned around and walked out of the supply and marketing cooperative. When she was approaching the door, Mei Shui discovered something good. She almost got embarrassed. After buying a lot more, Mei Shui left the supply and marketing cooperative with satisfaction. She went to the carriage to check first, maybe Aunt Milian had sold out. After walking around for so long, it was almost noon. Mei Shui was actually very hungry, but there were not many people selling food on the street. So she never smelled the fragrance, so she endured it. He Anken was meeting with a few people driving carriages in the village. Everyone had bought the things that their families had told them to do. It was noon, and it was time to go back. Anken, let's leave first. It rained too much this morning. We have to go back and check the water in the ground, the owner of another carriage in the same village said. Go, I think Aunt Mei Lian will be here soon, and we won't be too late, He Ankenpi said. Mei Shui happened to see people from the same village leaving when she arrived, but she didn't have a good impression of those people. They all have very venomous mouths. If they meet her, grandma is right. You can scold her no matter what. When your mouth is tired, slap her in the face and tell her to be quiet. When He Anken saw Mei Shui coming, he stepped forward and called some sisters-in-law. Sister-in-law, are you sold out? This surprised him. Well, everything is sold out. Hasn't Aunt Mei Lian come back yet? Mei Shui asked when seeing no one in the car. No, it's already noon, so I think it's about time. Generally, the vegetables in the village will be sold out before noon. If there were too many, they might stay up until the afternoon, but why would the villagers rush back at night, so they would not pick too many vegetables every time they went out to sell them? Then it's done, let's wait. Aunt Mei Lian's vegetables had just been sold out. As soon as they were sold out, she went to her son-in-law's relative's house and asked his relatives to bring a message asking him to go to the village to pick them up. His wife's son was coming back. After reporting the letter, Aunt Milian, tired and hungry, hurried to Heian City. By the time she arrived, the sun was out and she was getting soaked in the sun. It was really not a good experience. Aunt Mei Lian is here, let's go. Everyone in the village was very relaxed. Mei Shui didn't expect to be hungry at noon, and he Ankan thought he could go back in time for lunch. Come on, let's go back quickly, the sun will beat you to death in a while. Aunt Mei Lian quickly put the basket behind the carriage, and the person climbed up from the tire. Mai Xiu also stepped forward and grabbed Aunt Mei Lian, and pulled her up easily. Xiaoxiu is very strong, haha, that's good, Aunt Mei Lian said with a grateful expression. Aunt Mei Lian arrived. Of course she saw the things Mei Shui bought and opened her mouth, but in the end she held it back. It was just that Mei Shui's raincoat was used to cover everything in the basket. People in the village are gossipy, so it's better to avoid them. She didn't like the women in the village very much. At that time she forget it, I don't want to think about it anymore. Thank you, Aunt Mei Lian. Mei Shui was really grateful for other people's kindness. The most important thing is that Aunt Mei Lian is the most kind person in this world besides her grandma. When others are kind to her, of course she will reciprocate the kindness. If they are evil, haha, just let them taste the strength of her palms, and treat her as having a kind heart. You are still young and ignorant. Although every household is better off than before and has enough food to eat, your heart is like an evil ghost. You don't want others to be kind to you. Aunt Mei Lian's voice was very low, and coupled with the sound of the carriage and Hiankan's driving, it did not reach other people's ears. Looking at Aunt Mei Lian like that, Mei Shui knew that she must be suffering deeply. She would just go back and ask her grandma about this matter. There was no need to tell her in front of others now. Well, I know, I couldn't think about it before. I always thought that doing good to others meant doing good to yourself. Unexpectedly, the final result was really chilling. Mei Shui is explaining her changes. She will eventually change in the future, and she doesn't want others to think too much about it. Saying these words to Aunt Mei Lian just makes her understand herself better. You're right. Some people just push their limits. If you don't show her some shame, she will really think you are easy to bully. My aunt didn't know your previous personality, but she can tell that you are not the kind of person who gets offended. Aunt Mei Lian looked at Mei Shui with a knowing expression on her face, and smiled. You don't have to bear it. You and Nze have also obtained a marriage certificate, why are you afraid of them? If you hear them again, come up, just clean them up and they will be subdued. Please add it to your favorites and vote for recommendations. Please reward. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 13. Chapter 13, Going Home. Aunt Mei Lian is here to teach Mei Shui her experience. These are the experiences she gained in exchange for her life. If it were someone else, she wouldn't necessarily say so. Fortunately, she is my niece. There are not only people from our He family in the village. This village is called Hejia village, but there are also people with other big surnames in the village. The population is large and mixed. If you don't stand up for yourself, you can't always let the third aunt stand up for you. She is not young anymore. Speaking of her third aunt, Aunt Mei Lian looked distressed again. It's not easy for your grandma, although I don't know what happened when she was young, but I got married when brother Zhangfeng and the others left. The hardships of the following days, if your grandma hadn't been so tough, I'm afraid your whole family would have become extinct. Aunt Mei Lian was a little scared when talking about some past events. Mai Xiu could also imagine how difficult it would be for a woman with her grandson to gain a foothold in the village. In addition, all the men in the family are dead, and the life will be even more difficult and miserable. Being a grandma is not easy, so Mei Shui is determined to treat her as her own grandma from now on. I know that I will be filial to grandma and stand up for myself. I also know that Grandma made arrangements for everyone in order to marry me. Don't worry, Aunt Mei-Lian, I will never let Grandma suffer again in the future. Mei Shui thought about the original owner's life experience, and was afraid that everyone would scold her grandma from behind. Thinking that the original owner heard some fragments of words, Mei Shui thought of many things. Of course she knew how hard it was when she was working alone. Now it's just a different era and a different person, but I'm not as capable as I am, so you can imagine the difficulties and obstacles involved. It's good if you think so. Your grandma is usually reluctant to eat or wear clothes, but she is very willing to give up on your marriage to Jens. You yourself know that no one in the village will go to such a colorful gift, which can cost up to 100 yuan. Even if it's up to the sky. Aunt Mei-Lian told Mei Shui about Grandma He's difficulties. The burial for your parents and the banquets are all money. Even if there are not many dishes, there is still a tough one. Meat is not cheap now. Meigs recalled the time when the original owner buried her parents, but she couldn't remember the food on her table. And those eggs for you, they are your grandma's daily living expenses. She relies on those eggs to exchange for some salt and other things. The vegetables are still grown last year, because when you come in, you will have all the eggs. All the money was lost. Only her own family knew about these things. How could anyone outside know about these things? Mei Shui felt a sore nose when she heard Aunt Mei-Lian talking about these things. Aunt Mei-Lian, please stop talking. I understand everything. I understand everything. Those eggs and sugar water that I understand every day, I know they were all saved by Grandma for me. Mei Shui was really sad. She knew that her grandma was very kind to her, but she didn't expect her to be so kind. She didn't know what kind of grudges made her pay so much. Grandma also told herself that she was rich, but in fact, where did she have money? When Aunt Mei-Lian saw Mei Shui crying, she also felt a little regretful. Auntie didn't keep her mouth shut, so don't cry, just keep it in your heart. I'm not telling you how to repay this kindness, I just want you to know your grandma's devotion to you. From the bottom of my heart, I just want my third aunt to have a better life and not be so miserable. Well, I understand everything. Thank you, Aunt Mei-Lian. If you ask anything from now on, I won't even take a nap. Mei Shui did her best to return the favor. We are all members of our own family, why can't you help me when I ask you to help? Okay, let's not talk about this, just collect your tears, and don't go back and be seen by my third aunt, or she will deal with me. Along the way, Aunt Mei-Lian made fun of Mei Shui. It was past 12 o'clock when we returned to the village, and the smell of rice was wafting from every house. Mei Shui's stomach growled in anger. Go home quickly, I'm afraid the third aunt is impatient. Aunt Mei-Lian urged Mei Shui as she lifted the basket from the carriage. Meigs felt a little embarrassed. It's okay, I'll wait for Aunt Mei-Lian to go up with her. Their home had to go through a mountain road, which was full of stones, so it wasn't difficult to get there. It's just that it rained heavily this morning and the rocks were a little slippery. It's better to wait for Aunt Mei-Lian to come with us. No matter how hungry we are, we don't miss this time. I think Grandma has also prepared the rice. If we go back and eat the ready-made food, we won't be hungry for long. Aunt Mei-Lian smiled and said nothing more. She picked up the burden and went up with Mei Shui. The carriage and horse fare is not expensive, only 20 cents. For such a long journey, it is not expensive to pay 20 cents plus a load. They are all from the same village, just taking the road. Of course, if you don't bring anything with you, everyone would prefer to go alone and save as much as you can. When Mei Shui and Aunt Mei-Lian were saying goodbye, she looked at a person walking not far away, and Mei Shui's eyes lit up. Grandma. That person was none other than Grandma He, who had been waiting at home. It rained so heavily in the morning. If it weren't for her age, she really didn't want Xiaoxiu to go out alone. There is no other way. If this old bone is exposed to rain all morning and is shaken by driving back and forth, I am afraid that the person will fall over. But the vegetables at home could not be wasted, so Xiaoxiu had to go with Mei Lian to sell the vegetables. She became anxious when she didn't see any cars coming back on the road at noon. But there is no point in being anxious. We can only prepare lunch first. What if Xiaoxiu is hungry when she comes back? In order to find something to do for herself and stop thinking about things, Grandma he made a hearty lunch. Just wait for Xiaoxiu to come back to eat. But when the dishes were almost cold, there was still no one there. A car had arrived earlier, but there was no snow in the car, so she ran home again to heat up the dishes. Just when he was in a hurry, he heard Mei Lian's voice, and he ran out in a hurry. Hey, Xiaoxiu is back, are you tired, are you hungry, Grandma has cooked, come on, let's go home for dinner. Grandma he stepped up and walked towards Xiaoxiu. Xiaoxiu, after being taught by Aunt Milian along the way, had long missed her grandma. When they met, Xiaoxiu didn't care about Aunt Milian, who had not left, and hurriedly ran to her grandma. Hey, I'm hungry, Grandma. She didn't give the burden on her shoulders to her grandma because there were many things in it and it was heavy. Go back and eat when you are hungry. After saying that, Grandma he looked at Mei Lian who was entering the house. Mei Lian is troubling you, Xiaoxiu has caused trouble for you along the way. Third aunt said this as if we are not a family, at least Xiaoxiu also calls me aunt. Aunt Mei Lian replied with a smile. Grandma he knew that she was kind, so she dared to entrust Xiaoxiu to her. Okay, come back quickly. You have been tired all morning. Go back and eat quickly. Lixia is still waiting at home. Hey, I'll be back soon, I'll be back soon. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 14. Chapter 14, Story. After bidding farewell to Aunt Mei Lian, the mother-in-law and grandson walked to their home, which was not far away, only about 10 meters away. You kid, why did you buy so many things? Seeing how heavy the burden was, Grandma he didn't know that Xiaoxiu, the kid, had bought something. Mei Shui looked at Grandma he with a silly smile on her face. She didn't pay much attention to it before, but after listening to Auntie Perfect Lian's words today, Mei Shui took a serious look at Grandma he's face. It is indeed very bad, the food is very poor, but it seems that I haven't had a good rest. These are all needed at home. I bought them when I saw the bargain. Don't worry, Grandma. I have money in my hands and our family will not be hungry now that she is here and her grandma is so kind to her. Of course she must repay Grandma well. If you have some money, just worry about it. If there is something missing at home, you can buy whatever you want. In fact, it means that you are worried about money. It is difficult to make money after all. Everyone is reluctant to part with flowers and save them just in case. After returning home, Mei Shui put the burden under the eaves and took out the things one by one. First I bought high rain boots for my grandma. Grandma, try them on and see if they fit. When Grandma he saw these things that Mei Shui bought for herself, she was very happy, but she also had a serious look on her face. You kid, why did you buy these? Don't you have rain boots at home? It doesn't rain much today, so wear them not even a few times. Seeing her grandma like this, Mei Shui was not angry. She immediately coaxed her to sit down and helped her change her shoes and try them on for size. Grandma he was happy, with a smile on her face. Xiaoxiu can wear whatever she buys. There are not only shoes, but also cotton, and some other miscellaneous things. Grandma he saw that Xiaoxiu was busy cleaning things as soon as she came back. She also tried on her own shoes. She took her hand and said, "Don't do it. You are hungry. Let's eat first. We will clean up later. We have bought everything. Grandma, I won't ask you to retreat. It's all the child's wish. No matter how much she loves money, she can't break her child's heart because of money. He didn't say it was okay, but when he said it, Mei Shui's stomach growled again, hungry. You're the weird one, okay, put it down and let's eat first, Grandma, he said with amusement. Grandma, haven't you eaten either? It's already 1 o'clock. Why haven't you eaten yet? This won't work. It will make you hungry. Don't wait for me in the future. Eat first when you are hungry and leave some for me. Seeing Xiaoxia caring so much about herself, Grandma he turned her back, wiped her face, and adjusted her facial expression. You are beautiful, Grandma has been busy until now, who is waiting for you, the old lady with a hard mouth and a soft heart. Meixue did not try to expose her and could only follow her words. The two of them had a sumptuous lunch, which made Mei Shui very happy. Grandma, why do you add beans to the rice? Is there not enough rice at home? Mei Shui is a careful person. I haven't eaten like this a few days ago. I'm afraid I don't have enough rice at home. There are still 2 months until the autumn harvest. Enough, it didn't just rain this morning. Grandma will add some red beans to your cooking to remove the moisture. Grandma, he replied with a smile. Just the two of them eat, and there is enough rice at home. That's good. I thought we didn't have enough rice at home. If it's not enough, let's buy some. No one can lose to you, Grandma. Meixue said softly. He put away the dishes and chopsticks on the table and took them to be washed. It happened to be raining, and the water flow behind was strong. Mei Shui moved quickly and put away the dishes and chopsticks in a short time. Started to talk to Grandma about making quilts. She is really not good at needlework, so she has to rely on her grandma. Grandma, he thought that the quilt that Xiaoxia used for her wedding was the same one that Junqi had used before, so it was time to make her a new quilt, so she didn't waste any time saying, it happened to be raining, so you don't have to go to the fields, so I'll make it for you. Mei Shui also pulled the cloth back, which can be used to make clothes or quilt covers. She doesn't like the current kind of cover. The fabrics on both sides are different, one side is smooth and the other side is cotton. She prefers the one with cotton on both sides, which is more comfortable. What about these cloths? Does Grandma know how to make clothes? Mei Shui had a headache and was impulsive. It's okay. I'll take it to your Aunt Mei Lian later and ask her to do it for us. Then I'll just give her a little money, Grandma, he said with great enthusiasm. Of course, she is even more sensible and knows what things should not be troubled by others and what things can only be done by herself. Well, I didn't expect Aunt Mei Lian to have such a skill. The weather was pretty good in the afternoon, but there was still a hint of wind and drizzle. Grandma, he didn't go out and made a quilt for Mei Shui at home. Mei Shui also followed her grandmother's example and helped her bounce the cotton. Then she took out a bow and started to bounce the cotton. That voice is pleasant to hear. Playing cotton is a strenuous job. Grandma, he got tired after doing it for a while. After watching it for a while, Mei Shui took it from her grandma and started to play slowly. You kid, you are so easy to do this kind of hard work that you can't even thread a needle in for a long time. Grandma, he glared at Mei Shui angrily. But, if you beat me small, I will have more strength. Otherwise, why would I eat so much? So, from now on, I will do all the heavy work at home. I have enough strength, but I just need to eat more. What you say is a correct statement. Grandma, he was even amused by her. Okay, it just so happens that I am strong, old lady. From now on, I will do all the heavy work at home for you, so I won't tire you out like a dog. No, I am willing, so I won't be tired. The mother-in-law and grandson spent a pleasant afternoon talking and laughing. While cooking in the evening, Mei Shui couldn't help but ask her grandma about Aunt Mei Lian. Grandma, he didn't know what was going on when she heard Mei Shui say what Mei Lian told her. Speaking of which, your Aunt Mei Lian is also a poor child. When you first got married, your family had not yet been separated. There were 2 sons in the family, and the elder brother was above her. Those sisters got married early and didn't at home. But the sister-in-law above is not a simple person. Your Aunt Milian has 2 children now. In fact, she gave birth to 3. Grandma, he hates talking about these things, which is really harmful to people. 3. Mei Shui was a little surprised. But no, the first child was a son. At that time, everyone's conditions were not good, and everyone had nothing to eat. If you, the rich man, were not a bit capable, you might not even be able to afford a wife. Grandma, he gets angry when she talks about these bad things. Her second sister-in-law was also a fool, otherwise she wouldn't have died in an unknown state. There is a story as soon as you hear it. Mei Shui's hands are moving non-stop, and her ears are serious when listening. Milian was picked on by her mother-in-law as soon as she got married. At that time, everyone was doing this, so she didn't have any objections. When she was pregnant with her first child, she looked a little bad, but her family's condition was poor and she couldn't go to the hospital for medical treatment. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 15. Chapter 15, Making Clothes. This is not a big deal, as long as you take good care of it at home. Unexpectedly, after only a few days of raising her at home, the sister-in-law of Milian no longer wanted to take care of her. She herself has given birth to 2 sons, both of whom are almost 3 or 4 years old, and they can leave her hands. But she is small-minded and cannot see others having a better life than her. I saw Aunt Milian recuperating at home, scolding her every day. The new daughter-in-law was thin-skinned. After scolding her so many times, she didn't dare to rest anymore and started doing some simple chores at home. As long as she is comfortable, this matter can be settled. However, the pregnancy is obviously not very good, and she is still frightened every day. In addition, her mother-in-law also agrees with her sister-in-law. She had to do it even if she didn't want to. The more she tolerated, the more the 2 of them went too far. They began to let Mei Lian do all the work at home regardless of the importance. She is very tolerant and could not endure the entire pregnancy, but in the end, she and the child in her belly were harmed. There were no 2 deaths, but the child died as soon as he was born and did not live more than an hour. Are you angry? Hate? Resent? Melian is angry with her, angry that no one in her husband's family cares about her. She hated her husband's family even more for being ruthless, and her sister-in-law for being so picky. Of course, she hated herself even more. Why couldn't she stand up? Want to be patient? Why endure it? She complained that her man had never said a kind word to her from beginning to end. Even if he helped her with her work, she would have more work the next day. At that time, she had death intentions. The more this happened, the more excessive her sister-in-law and mother-in-law were. She said this was ominous and retributive. So many people in the village were pregnant and had children. Why did everyone else survive, but why couldn't she? That is retribution. God will not let her have a child. Every unpleasant word was said to her, and every sin was placed on her head. Until the end, Mei Lian couldn't bear it anymore, and her parents came to make a fuss and persuaded her, so she slowly thought about it. Divorce was impossible because there was no such thing as divorce at that time. After confinement, she had a fight with her sister-in-law. She couldn't survive the fight because she was weak. The next day she went back to her parents' home, called her 3 brothers, and beat them severely. He also had a falling out with his mother-in-law. The family was finally separated. They got the land where they live now. Those who didn't take the old man's land all had the land in their own names. In this way, the young couple lived separately and lived in their parents' house for half a year. They finally borrowed money to repair the house they lived in now, but the sister-in-law was not convinced. Chewing the roots of the tongue everywhere, Milian also changed her temperament. Hence, I no longer dare to bully her. More than a year later, she became pregnant with Lixia, and the following year she became pregnant with her son. The days are getting better and better as time goes by. As for the sister-in-law, her life was easy, but not sad either. After the subcontracting was completed, her husband had subcontracted his family's land, and he went out to work with his wife and children. Grandma he didn't like the niece-in-law very much. She never asked about her, and she didn't speak to her when she saw her. Grandma he also pretended that she didn't know her. Listening to Aunt Fenglian's story, Mei Shui knew why she said she wanted her to be stronger. Indeed, that kind of talkative woman will only have a long memory if you beat her and scold her. The life of Aunt Mei Lian's family is not bad now, Mei Shui said with a smile. No, the conditions in the village are a bit worse, but at least there is land and land to support a large family. The outside world is not that good. You have to buy everything with money. If you don't buy it, you won't have anything to eat. Mei Shui agreed with Grandma's words. Yes, Grandma, you don't know that even the people in the city have to spend money to buy small vegetables. For us, just one kind can last for a quarter. Mei Shui also likes this kind of life. Rather than buying it with money, she prefers to grow it herself. Mei Shui gave the money from selling vegetables to her grandma when she came back today. Grandma looked happy and she sold the vegetables faster than usual. That's because you're lucky. You sold quickly today. In the past, it would have been sold until the afternoon. She has sold vegetables herself, but she doesn't know whether the vegetables are good or not. But seeing the smile on Xiaoxiu's face, Grandma he was still very happy. However, growing some vegetables and selling them can also subsidize the family income, which is enough for the family to eat for several days. Grandma he is very satisfied with the current life. Compared to the past, it was really one sky and one land. Now every year, apart from the public grain payment, the land cultivated by the family does not receive any external investment, and it can feed the family for a whole year. Nothing like before, even food was not enough. Grandma, let's order a variety of dishes in the future, and I'll sell them all in the town. Mei Shui was very concerned about this matter. Grandma he is very happy that Xiaoxiu likes this kind of life, unlike other little daughters-in-law who either want this or that. It's done, it's time to plant melons after the autumn harvest. Let's plant some melons, then it will be good whether we eat it ourselves or sell it. It will last a long time. With Grandma's consent, Mei Shui was very motivated. Well, I'll listen to Grandma when the time comes. I'll help Grandma plow the land and grow vegetables. The mother-in-law and grandson had a delicious dinner so harmoniously that there was nothing to do at night. There was no electricity in the village yet, so it was up to God to do anything. After going to bed early, both of them had a dreamless night. The next day, Mei Shui took the cloth she bought to Aunt Milian's house, because she knew how to make clothes and also had a sewing machine. Cotton is not a day's work. Grandma he would play cotton at home, and Mei Shui would take the cloth to Aunt Mei Lian's house. When you walk to Aunt Milian's house, you have to pass by the door of Aunt Zillian's house. It's still a little rainy today, so everyone basically doesn't go out and is resting at home. It's not long before the autumn harvest, so everyone is gathering strength. Where are you going, Xiaoxiu? Mei Shui was thinking about something when she heard someone calling her. She hurriedly looked around and saw several people sitting under the eaves of Aunt Zillian's house. Who did Mei Shui know? Go to Aunt Mei Lian's house to make 2 sets of clothes for Grandma. Mei Shui is straightforward and doesn't hide it when others ask her. The main reason is that she can't hide it. She has a cloth in her hand. Hey, Xiaoxiu is very filial. I went to the market yesterday and bought cloth for your grandma to make clothes for. The person who spoke was the daughter-in-law of Chen Dao's family below. This person has a good relationship with sister-in-law Yang. She is also a famous fast-talking woman in the village. Meixiu didn't recognize her, but the voice was different from the one just now. She knew that it was not her who called her. Mei Shui didn't want to say anything more to these people. She just wanted to quickly learn how to make clothes from Aunt Mei Lian. If nothing happens, I'll leave first. After all, he didn't recognize the person, and he didn't have the intention to say anything more. Why are you so anxious? Chen Dao's wife ran towards Xiaoxiu in the rain, as if she had found some treasure, her eyes always paying attention to the thing in Mei Shui's hand. Because there was a lot of cloth, Mei Shui carried it in a basket, otherwise it would be easy to get it when it rained. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 16. Chapter 16, Fight 01. After getting closer, she saw the cloth in the basket, and her eyes showed envy. Hey, this is a good cloth. It seems to cost several pieces per meter. Mei Shui didn't like her behavior, so she lost her smile and said, yeah, more than 3 yuan. She didn't hide it. Envy, right? It makes you envious enough. If it weren't for the fear of exposing herself, Mei Shui would have wanted to fall out with such a person on the spot. It's a pity that the original owner's temperament gave her too many fetters. Looking at it wasn't enough, the man also took action. When the people around him heard that there were 3 pieces of cloth that were more than 1 meter long, they were all not afraid of the rain, so they all gathered around. Aunt Zillian was a little unhappy. After all, she was still her nephew-in-law. These people were too short-sighted. Okay, we've seen it all, let Xiaoxiu do her work. It's raining, so you don't have to worry about getting the food in your stomach wet. Hearing this, Mei Shui felt better. Looking at the bowl in her hand, she thought it was Aunt Zillian. Those people don't care. Even if the food in their stomachs is wet, this new cloth has not been seen for many days. Hey, we've only been together for a few days, and I'm already escorting you. Do you recognize your aunts? Those quick-talking women said such things intentionally or unintentionally. Meixu was happy when she heard this. She originally wanted to be a good wife quietly, but unexpectedly, the opportunity to change came so quickly. What this aunt said is a bit funny. He Junkai and I have obtained certificates, so what do you mean he doesn't recognize it? He held an umbrella in one hand and a basket in the other, raising his head and chest out, and immediately retorted. The aunt probably didn't expect that Wei Wei's weak new daughter-in-law also had a sharp mouth. Being retorted by the new wife, the man also became a little unconvinced. I'm not wrong. Who knows whether you got the certificate for real or fake? Besides, at your age, did you get the certificate? The man had a face full of disbelief. Not only did she not believe it, but many people in the village did not believe it. They all said that the Mei family was exchanging favors for marriage. Now that the whole family is dead, the daughter is left to be raised by someone else. The marriage is only talked about and the banquet is not organized. What kind of marriage is that? Is Mei Shui so easy to handle? Haha, what this aunt is saying is funny. Are you from the Public Security Bureau? Do I have to show you whether I have a certificate or not? Besides, who are you from my He family? Do we need your consent before we get married? Mei Shui just used this incident to establish her authority. Don't think she is really easy to bully. Sister-in-law Chen pulled the person who was being scolded. This person was none other than her neighbor. He usually had a similar style. He happened to come up and ask the Zillian family man to help look at the water in the field. Because her man had to go to town to do some work today and was unavailable, and her family's land was shared with the Zillian families, so he came up early after dinner. Her neighbor had nothing to do at home, and when he heard that she was going to Zillian's house, he followed her. Unexpectedly, she was paired with this new wife. Daughter-in-law of the He family, you are a junior after all, how can you talk to an elder like this? We are all from the same village. When you leave the village, you have to pass by our door. Do you have to be polite when you speak? Sister-in-law Chen doesn't like this new daughter-in-law either. She feels like she is restless and looks like someone from the countryside. Like a pretty young lady. Junior, what kind of elder is she in my family? Is she from the He family? Mei Shui stood forward and said, listen to what you mean. If I don't admit my mistake now, you won't let me pass on the road when I leave the village. Hee, I really thought she was a little white rabbit. How come I don't know whose door the road in the village is built is considered as belonging to whose house? If this happens, then it's okay. If you have the ability, stop me and give it a try. Sister-in-law Chen and her neighbors felt their hearts drop when they saw Mei Shui being so powerful, knowing that this girl was not someone to be trifled with. How do you say that? Even though he was a little timid in his heart, he still had to show his face. Even if your men see us, they still have to call us aunt. How come you just married and want to change the world? 11 Lian saw that they were talking more and more excessively, and hurriedly stepped forward to stand between them and Mei Shui. Okay, it's nothing serious. Why are you arguing? Xiaoxiu has nothing else to do, so let her go and get busy. Aunt Zillian is a member of the family after all, so she will definitely help her nephew-in-law. Even if she tries to break up a fight, it will be to help her own side. What do you mean it's no big deal? How can such a woman be married to our Hejia village? She is really a mother-in-law with no father's guidance, Aunt Chen's neighbor yelled. Who doesn't know that she is a murderer? She just killed her parents, and she doesn't know where she got the courage to marry. As soon as Aunt Chen said these words, she felt that she was powerful, but it hurt Mei Shui. It was true that the original owner's consciousness disappeared, but the obsession was still there. Mei Shui was usually suppressed and could not show up, but now that she heard these words, the obsession immediately came to her heart. Mei Shui threw away the umbrella in her hand, pushed the basket into Aunt Zillian's arms, stepped forward and grabbed the man who was eating in his mouth. You don't have a father to teach you, right? Today I'm going to show you what it means to have no father to teach you. He slapped that black and yellow face. After one slap, Mei Shui slapped her again on the other side of the face. This time it was good and symmetrical. Because Mai Xiu grabbed her hair, the aunt was focused on her painful head, and she didn't recover for a while after being hit in the face. After the 2 slaps were finished, she screamed like a pig, "Ah, you stinky cousin, let me see if I don't beat you to death today," she scolded and grabbed Mei Shui. Who is Mei Shui? How could she catch him? When he saw her taking action, he immediately slapped her hand, and the snapping sound on the back of her hand was pleasant to his ears. If you have the ability, come here. I'm afraid you won't. You really think that I, Mei Shui, am a vegetarian? When Aunt Chen saw her neighbor being beaten, she immediately went to start a fight. Of course, her fight was off-kilter, but Mei Shui let her hair go without noticing. Of course, Mei Shui loosened it intentionally because her hair was too oily and she hadn't washed it for an unknown number of days. She could smell the rancid smell of her hair when she got close to it. Why are you still beating people? Aunt Chen said with a straight face. You, a junior, dare to fight against an elder. I'm afraid you don't want to live in our village. Little bitch, I'm not done with you. The neighbor's aunt, who recovered her senses, immediately rushed towards Mei Shui. Everyone had reacted by now, so how could they let them continue fighting? Especially Aunt Zillian. Does she know what kind of temper the third aunt is like? If she knew that Xiaoxiu was beaten in front of her house, her family would probably have no peace. Have you beaten enough? Mei Shui, come here and do anything. Aunt Zillian pulled Mei Shui behind her and looked at the madman in front of her. However, this person's mouth is really annoying. It's not like no one in the village gossips, but even if you poke someone's sore spot, you'll say it behind his back. If you poke someone in person, you're just asking for a beating. Ask her to say, yes. Please vote for recommendations, collect, invest, and reward. All kinds of requests. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 17. Chapter 17, Fight 02. No one thought that Zioxiu still had this ability. It seemed that the injury was healed. It really fulfilled the old saying, it doesn't mean that a family does not come into the house, it smells like her third aunt. Don't worry about Zillion. I'm not done with her, and you dare to beat me. The aunt who was beaten was so angry that her eyes turned red. It must have been because the beating was too painful, and tears flowed from her eyes. Meixu was not afraid of her. It won't be over until it's over. If you can, curse again and see if I don't slap your mouth to bits. Mei Shui was not afraid. The noise here alarmed all the people in the middle of the mountain. When they heard the quarrel, they all ran out to watch. Mei Shui was the most eye-catching. The people living halfway up the mountain were all the descendants of the He family brothers. When they saw that their family members were being bullied, they immediately gathered around them. What are you doing? What are you doing? Mr. Zhang, why are you crazy? The members of your fourth group actually dare to beat the members of our fifth group. You don't want to live, right? Several people, young and old, came and stood on 11 Lian's side. There was an older person who was not tall. She looked at Mei Shui and said, "Are you okay?" Meixu knew this person. She had been to her home. She was Aunt Ting, her father-in-law's sister-in-law. Aunt Ting, I'm fine. Her mouth is dirty. I'll help her wash her mouth to prevent her from having a bad mouth. Mei Shui calmed down and said with a smile. Aunt Zhang over there heard Mei Shui's words, so she immediately started scolding her, "You shameless thing, who do you think you are, a Kijia Kefa bitch, you dare to hit me, this matter will never end. You will talk endlessly. What can you do to me if you don't finish?" Mei Shui smiled. "It's none of your business who I can control. As long as I can't control your family, can you care about it? Just eat carrots and don't worry about it." After the beating, that obsession disappeared. Now Mei Shui is in a good mood. If she can, she won't do anything. She shouldn't do anything. Preserve strength. The He family has been in bad luck for 8 lifetimes. Marrying a bad guy like you will destroy the whole family at some point. Maybe she was mad because she completely forgot the name of third aunt He. It happened that this sentence was heard by Grandma He, who came out late. She pulled out a stick as thick as her thumb from the fence and ran over. "You're such a foul-mouthed person, do you need to worry about what kind of wife your mother-in-law will marry? I'll let you have a bad mouth, I'll let you bad mouth." Grandma He pushed through the crowd and stepped forward to give her a beating. The fence stick was too long and it was not easy to hit people with ease. After 2 hits, the stick was broken. Now is just the time, Grandma He's whipping is so smooth, coughs whole family. "I'll whip you to death before my whole family dies. I'll make your mouth smell bad, and you don't even know what you are. How dare you say that, other people?" Grandma He's fighting ability is not comparable to that of ordinary people, and with her reputation, those around her are walking around, fearing to ignite her anger. As soon as Grandma He took action, those who tried to stop the fight no longer dared to go forward and tried to persuade her. They just waited for Grandma He to finish venting her anger. After beating for a while, Grandma He was out of breath. Mei Shui hurriedly stepped forward to help the person. "Grandma, don't be angry. Beating someone is a laborious job. Let me do it." Mei Shui felt so good watching her grandma whip someone, even though she didn't want to do it, she was moved. It wouldn't kill her anyway, it would only cause her pain for several days. Just when Mei Shui went to pick up the stick in Grandma's hand, she found that Grandma squeezed the stick very tightly, and she didn't dare to use too much force, so she couldn't take it off. Seeing this, Mei Shui didn't know that Grandma was pretending to be weak. "Go away and see if I don't deal with this bad-mouthed person." After Grandma he was beaten, it was impossible for anyone to let her come forward to beat someone again. This would really create a grudge. They are all from the same village. If they make a fuss, it will be over. If you really beat someone up, there will be no way to deal with it. Third aunt, don't be angry, don't be angry. I think Xiaoxiu is a very lucky child. Don't let her chew randomly. We all like Xiaoxiu. Aunt Ting also hugged Grandma He's hand from the other side. I'm just afraid that she will really hit someone again. One hit is enough, if you hit it again it will really damage it. That's right, it's our blessing in Ans. Some men did not come forward to persuade them because the person fighting was a woman, and it would be bad if they encountered her. Those who broke up the fight were all women. When Aunt Chen saw Aunt He getting angry, she didn't dare to show her anger at all. She supported her neighbor and whispered in her ear, telling her to leave quickly. How could Aunt Zhang be so willing? How could she be willing to do so after suffering so much grievance? Humph, I went to the market yesterday and bought so much cloth. I don't know if it will be done properly. The voice was not loud, but no one was deaf. Zhang family, if you have the ability, if I don't beat you to death, at worst, the old woman will give you her life. Grandma He couldn't bear it anymore, so she stepped forward and slapped her again. She didn't care who was trying to break up the fight, but she would slap whoever was standing with Aunt Zhang. It wasn't until Aunt Zhang fell to the ground that Grandma He was pulled away by her nephews. Auntie, don't do it, or you'll beat her up if you do. Meixiu also became angry. The most important thing for a woman is her reputation. This person is so cruel. When I came back from buying cloth, I felt sorry for my grandma. My parents are no longer here, but when my parents were alive, I had enough food and clothing. It's normal to leave some wealth for me. You're jealous of others, so forget it. He is also cruel. Seeing that Mei Shui was angry, Aunt Zillian also pulled her, fearing that she would step forward to make plans. That attitude was really scary. Besides, my grandma loves me. When I got married, I took all the gifts she gave me with me. I respect my grandma. Do you have any objections? If you have any objections, just keep it to yourself. If you let me do it again, after hearing what you said, let's see if I don't kill you. Mei Shui was so fierce that even she was afraid of it, and the murderous intent in her eyes almost turned into reality, all of which pierced Aunt Zhang. Get out of here, Grandma He shouted viciously at the people on the ground. Let's go quickly. If you are from the Chen family, take her back quickly. If you have nothing to do, don't come to our fifth group, Aunt Ting said to Aunt Chen, who was grinning in pain. Aunt Chen didn't dare to delay, so she immediately helped the girl down the mountain with the daughter-in-law of the Streamside family. Aunt Zillian really regrets asking her man to help her house look after the water. It's really annoying. If she offends the third aunt, it will be over. But everyone had left at this time, and she did not dare to say anything more. After the people left, Aunt Ting and others first helped Grandma He to the side and sat down. Third aunt, please rest a while, don't be angry, anger will harm your body. Aunt Zillian also picked up the umbrella Mei Shui threw out. That's right, what if you always get sick out of anger? Xiaoxiu still has to rely on you. Grandma He was angry, but the beating also showed her anger. Where is she angry now? It's not too late to be happy. But externally, of course, you have to keep a straight face. From now on, when I see her, I spank her every time, and I don't even look at what kind of person she is. Don't think she is clean. The meaning of this statement is a bit big. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 18. Chapter 18, and his reputation. However, Mei Shui doesn't have the heart to worry about so much. The most important thing now is to appease Grandma first and don't get so angry that she gets hurt. Grandma, let me help you go home, don't worry, if she spits feces in her mouth again, I will whip her every time. Mei Shui was finally released. Grandma, he glared at Mei Shui, aren't you afraid that your hands will hurt? Well, everyone finally saw that Xiaoxiu is really liked by the third aunt. But the third aunt is a bit tough-tempered, but she is nicer than anyone else. She is a typical person with a hard mouth but a soft heart. Okay, if we get angry when we hear it from now on, we will really think that there is no one left in our He family. Everyone coaxed Grandma He together, and it wasn't until she was coaxed back home that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Mei Shui didn't go to Aunt Milian's house either, but after the quarrel for so long, Aunt Milian didn't even come out to take a look, so she probably wasn't at home either. Mei Shui was right. Aunt Milian and Lixia took their children to Xingshen's house for medical treatment early in the morning. Maybe the child caught a cold last night and had diarrhea in the middle of the night. He didn't feel better in the morning. The child was still young and I didn't dare to give him any medicine at home. Had no choice but to go out at dawn, but still haven't come back yet. There is a doctor in the village. He is an uncle of the He family. He lives in a separate room, but his surname is also He. Our ancestors are from the same family. I live a little far away, so I went to the brigade. After returning home, Grandma He threw away the stick in her hand. Looking at Mei Shui, Grandma He smiled. Grandma is right, you have to beat people like this. If you can't beat them once, beat them twice. They will always be beaten. Be good. Hearing this, Mei Shui also laughed. Yes, Grandma is right, I feel really comfortable after being beaten today. Haha, she is the daughter-in-law of my He family. She is becoming more and more satisfied with this granddaughter-in-law. Grandma, please drink some water, you must have been tired from scolding me just now. Let's take a break. Mei Shui was so helpless that she helped her pour a glass of water. She added space water to the water at home, so she could drink it smoothly. Grandma He was very happy that Mei Shui was like this. Okay, Grandma, I'm fine. But after this fight, Mei Shui became famous in the village. They were not the only ones in Hejia village. There were several groups. The village was quite big. Zhang family, what's wrong with you? Why are you injured so badly? Seeing Aunt Zhang and Aunt Chen's people gathered around them, the injuries all over their bodies were really scary. The places where the stick was hit were all burning and painful. When Aunt Zhang heard someone ask, she immediately cried, I'm not going to live anymore. The He family bullies others. The whole family beat me. Wow, look what I've been beaten into. You're going to beat me to death, Weevu, she cried and slapped her thighs. Seeing her like this, all the good-hearted people gathered around her. The most people living by the stream were about a dozen families. When they heard someone shouting, they all ran out. Even if it is drizzling, everyone is in good spirits. What's up? There are all the He family in the middle of the mountain. Which family did the fight? Asked the busy woman in the village. Who else could it be? Look at the injuries on my body. Who else could it be besides the third aunt of the He family? Aunt Zhang screamed with snot and tears. But once everyone heard that it was the third aunt of the He family who had beaten him, no one dared to say anything because they were afraid that the beating would happen to them. With Aunt Chen's addition, Mei Shui's name was also remembered by everyone. What are you talking about? That girl Mei Shui still dares to hit someone. None of them could believe it. No, look at this face and hair. They were all slapped by her. Aunt Chen was afraid that others wouldn't believe it, so she immediately lifted Aunt Zhang's hair so that everyone could clearly see the slap marks on her face. Oh my God, that little girl has been through so much harm. Some people couldn't believe it. No, look at this swollen face, I'm afraid it won't go away for a few days. That's right, this is too heavy a blow. At this time, Aunt Chen and Aunt Zhang completely forgot what they had said at that time. They called others stinky cousins and sluts, and also said that they were a slave to their wife and a slave to the whole family. They were really telling lies with open eyes. Some people didn't believe that Mei Shui dared to hit someone, so they all gathered around and watched. Those who were afraid of Ant He also didn't say much and just listened. Walking all the way home, these two ants helped Mei Shui become famous. No matter what happens outside, Mei Shui and Grandma He are happy at home. Stretch the last bit of cotton and flatten it. After a few days, you can put the quilt cover on it. Then Mei Shui will have a new quilt to use. By the way, why didn't you see Aunt Milian today? Sitting under the eaves, Mei Shui looked at the door of Aunt Milian's house and asked. Grandma He took a look and said, I'm afraid she's not at home. I'll go check it out later at noon. She is the only one in our family that has a sewing machine, and she is the only one who is quick at making clothes. Okay, Grandma, what do you want to eat for lunch? I'll cook. Looking at the sky, Mei Shui didn't know what time it was, but she felt a little hungry. By the way, we seem to have some flour at home, why don't we eat noodles? Mei Shui asked with a smile on her face. Grandma He asked, where did the flour come from at home? Why didn't she know when her family bought flour? It's on the rice cabinet. Isn't there a bag of flour there? Mei Shui was also a little confused. Grandma, don't you remember? Grandma He really couldn't remember, so she got up from the bamboo bed and walked to the kitchen. It's impossible, I remember I didn't buy flour. What they eat here is Fukiang noodles, which are exquisite and expensive. I buy some during the Chinese New Year, but not at other times. When will we have flour at home? As she muttered, she walked into the kitchen and opened the rice cabinet. When she saw the contents inside, Grandma He smiled, where is this flour? This is steel rice flour, not flour. Mei Suifang said, ah, there are different types of flour. I thought they were all the same. She really didn't know. When she saw this packet, she thought it was flour. I ground this during the Qingming festival, and used it to make liao shui cakes for the tombs. Grandma He looked at Mei Shui strangely, you girl, you can't even tell the difference. Why are you hungry for flour? Mei Shui was a little embarrassed and laughed, no. We don't have any flour at home. When will you go out to the street and buy some Fukiang flour? The flour is white and this is steel rice flour. I'll make liao shui cake for you at noon. This stuff will taste better if it's dipped in sugar. Meixiu has no objection. She hasn't eaten that thing yet. Okay, Grandma, I'll help you. Seeing Xiaoxiu's greedy look, Grandma He couldn't help but laugh. It was a blessing to be able to eat. Help me light the fire later, and now I'll make the noodles. This thing is not expensive, you can make it if you want, and it will keep you full, but you can't eat more if you have a bad stomach. Like Mei Shui, I'm afraid there is no time when my stomach is not good. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 19. Chapter 19, Greedy for Chicken. No matter what other people's homes are like, anyway, at Grandma He's house, Mei Shui and Grandma He are making liao shui cakes in full swing. The aroma comes out when the water boils and the cakes are put in. A burst of fragrance. Grandma, it smells so good, let's make more. Mei Shui was so greedy that her mouth was almost watering. Okay, Grandma will make more for you. As long as you like to eat it, you can eat it every day. This is all made from home milled rice, and there is a stone mill at home. If you want to eat it, just soak some rice. It doesn't take much effort. It's not enough to eat it every day. Grandma, let's not eat sweets. I'll make a dish later and we'll eat salty ones. Mei Shui doesn't like sweetness very much. Okay, there are wet pickles at home. You can take out half a bowl of the oily residue later. We will pickle the oily residue, and it will taste delicious. For some reason, her appetite has improved a lot in the past few days. Normally, she only has one bowl of rice per meal, but now, I don't know whether it's because she sees Mei Shui eating well or something, but she can eat 2 big bowls. Okay, I'll listen to Grandma. Mei Shui had no objection at all. The mother-in-law and grandson devoured the Liao Shui cakes as soon as they came out of the pot at noon. If it weren't for the fear of filling up her stomach, Grandma he thought she could still eat 3 or 2 of them. It's a pity that when people get older, their taste is not as good as when they were young, so they can't eat it anymore. After eating and drinking, Mei Shui washed the pots and bowls and then took her grandma to walk around in her small yard. It is flour after all. If you sit down after eating it, you may feel bloated. Grandma, our chickens are not small anymore. Should we eat them ourselves or sell them? Mei Shui's mouth watered when she walked to the back of the house and looked at the chickens running around there. But she also knew that the chicken was a precious thing and she would definitely be reluctant to eat it. You just finished eating, and you are thinking about it again. If Xiaoxiu wants to eat it, we will kill it. Grandma he doted on Mei Shui very much. It seemed like she would kill whenever she asked. Mei Shui smiled heartily. No, I'm full now and can't eat. Let's talk about it in a few days, Mei Shui said jokingly. But this chicken is not small anymore. It won't produce meat or milk no matter how much it is raised. Why don't we sell it sometime? Then we can buy some chicks and raise them. She knew that her grandma would be reluctant to eat it and would be more likely to sell it. Okay, I'll catch it again at this time. It will be just right to eat during the Chinese New Year. I will raise more this year to keep you healthy. Looking at Xiaoxiu's thin body, Grandma he said with a worried look. Brother, I'm thin but I have strength. I don't need to take supplements. It's better if you take more supplements, Mei Shui said with a smile, half leaning on Grandma he's shoulder. Everything is made up for. Grandma he was very happy to be cared about. She has no daughter. If she had a daughter, she would be just as distressed as Mei Shui. The grandson was lucky enough to marry Xiaoxiu. At first, Grandma he was still a little unhappy, but she didn't disagree. She should repay the debt she owed to the Mei family. If she hadn't met Mei's father at that time, Xiao's might not have been born, right? Grandma he looked at Mei Shui. Her eyebrows and eyes looked very much like her father's. Both father and daughter were good people. Mei Shui was stared at and immediately sensed the gaze. She turned back to look at her grandma. What's wrong, Grandma? It's okay, I just feel like you look more and more like your dad. Speaking of her parents, Mei Shui didn't answer. She also put away her smile and looked at the chickens on the ground seriously. Seeing Mei Shui like this, Grandma he knew she had said the wrong thing. Okay, it's almost time to leave. Let's go take a nap. In the afternoon, you can go find Mei Lian to make clothes. Mei Shui smiled, helped her grandma into her room, and let her rest first. Okay, I'm fine. I'll close my eyes for a while and you go and take a nap. You were tired yesterday, Grandma he drove Mei Shui to bed. Mei Shui certainly did not disagree. As soon as she woke up, before Mei Shui could go out, Aunt Mei Lian ran over, apparently in a hurry. Aunt Mei Lian, why are you running away? Mei Shui was sweeping the floor in the yard when she saw Aunt Mei Lian coming in. Are you and third aunt okay? Are you injured? Where is third aunt? Are you injured? He asked 3 times as soon as he came in. Mei Shui couldn't even get a word in. Seeing Aunt Mei Lian stop and look worried, Mei Shui smiled and said, it's okay. Grandma and I are both fine. Grandma is still sleeping. She will get up in a while. Sit down quickly and I will get you a glass of water. As soon as he heard that nothing was wrong, Mei Lian breathed a sigh of relief. I met sister-in-law Zhang and sister-in-law Chen at Uncle Xingshen's place in the brigade. They said they were beaten by you and the third aunt. Mai Xiu poured a glass of water from the kitchen and smiled when she heard Aunt Mei Lian's words. Yes, it was me and Grandma who gave her a bad mouth. She deserves a beating. Have you and third aunt been beaten? Aunt Mei Lian asked after taking the water glass. No, it was one-sided. She was beaten by Grandma, and Mei Shui was very excited when talking about the battle. This is her first time in this world. After drinking the water and taking a breath, Aunt Milian looked at Meixiu with a look on her face. Well, they are still talking bad about you and third aunt. Such people should be beaten. Aunt Mei Lian, where were you at noon? Aren't you at home? Well, your sister Lixia's son has diarrhea. He may have caught a cold yesterday and is still not well this morning. Your sister and I took the child to see a doctor, Aunt Milian explained. When Mei Shui heard this, she felt relieved. No wonder she hadn't seen anyone since the quarrel for so long. It turned out that she was taking her child to see a doctor. Is the child feeling better? He's so young, so it's best not to take medicine, Mei Shui asked with a worried look on her face. Looking at the worry on Mei Shui's face, Aunt Milian was very happy. This child is good and sensible. It's okay, I haven't prescribed any medicine, but Uncle Xingsheng massaged the child's belly and warmed the body, so we came back late. As long as the child is okay, I was thinking of going to see you in the afternoon. Mei Shui felt relieved when she heard that the child was okay. What's the matter? Do you have something to do with your aunt? After relaxing, Milian's legs were very sore. She ran all the way back, worried that something would happen to her third aunt and Xiaoxiu. Asked them, but they didn't say anything. They just complained and cried, which gave her a headache. Didn't I buy some cloth yesterday? I want to make 2 sets of clothes for Grandma, and I also want to make 2 quilts. I want Auntie to help me wrap the edges. When I heard that it was not a big deal to make clothes, I said, it's done, you can bring it over later. It just happened to have rained in the past 2 days and there is no activity in the ground. Thank you, Aunt Milian. I'll come over when Grandma gets up. By the way, Aunt Milian, have you eaten? I forgot about it in excitement. Aunt Mei Lian shook her head, not yet. After saying that, she stood up and said, I'll be back first. You let third aunt sleep a little longer. I can make clothes very quickly, so don't be in a hurry. Then let's get something to eat at home. My mother and I ate Liao Shui cakes at noon, and there are many more. Mei Shui hurriedly asked someone to stay. The cooked food is finished, but there is still some uncooked food. That can't be done. There are still your sister Lixia and Uncle Genkei who haven't eaten at home. I have to go back and cook some food. Aunt Milian hurriedly waved her hand. End of this chapter. 80s, The Farmer's Wife is the Boss. Author, Village Girl in City. Chapter 20. Chapter 20, The Cow is Dead. Hearing that there were still so many people at home who had not eaten, Mei Shui stopped staying. Okay, I'll come back later. Well, I'm leaving. After sending Aunt Mei Lian away, Mei Shui continued to clean up the yard. The chicken was very naughty and pooped everywhere, which was very smelly. When she is free in the yard, Mei Shui thinks about buying some cement and spreading it out by herself. Otherwise, when it rains, there will be no good land and everything will be muddy puddles. Mei Shui's sense of belonging to this family is getting stronger and stronger, and she truly regards this place as her own home. Shortly after Aunt Mei Lian left, Grandma he got up and was very happy to see Mei Shui busy in the yard. It's hot, you can do it later. Looking at Xiaoxiu who was sweating profusely, Grandma he said with great distress. Hearing Grandma's voice, Mei Shui smiled. Grandma, get up. Aunt Mei Lian came home just now. Just as the work was almost done, within a short while, Mei Shui put down the broom and walked over to her grandma. At this time, the light rain stopped, and there were puddles everywhere in the yard. There was really no good land. Why is she here? Aunt Mei Lian took Sister Lixia and the child to see a doctor this morning at noon. I met those 2 people, so I hurried back to see if something happened to you, Grandma. Mei Shui is still very grateful to Aunt Mei Lian for her thoughtfulness. Huh, what can I do? Those 2 indifferent people are just talking bad about you everywhere, Grandma he said angrily. Whatever is important, just say it, and you won't lose a piece of meat. There are many people who scold her, and they are the most senior ones. Just don't worry, none of these fast-talking women are good. Grandma, he dislikes these people the most. Okay, let's not talk about this anymore. Grandma, the rain has stopped. I will go to the field to check the water. I don't know if the field is too full with water. Mei Shui still likes farming. Sure, I'll go with you. You don't know how to look at water, Grandma, he said with a smile on her face. You should go and have a look after the rain stops, otherwise what will happen if the water soaks the roots? Of course, Mei Shui would not tell her grandma not to go. She was just learning from her experience. The two of them packed up and put on the new rain boots Mei Shui bought. Grandma, he felt windy when she walked. Looking at her arrogant look, Mei Shui thought her grandma was very cute. We went all the way to our field, and sure enough, the 2 days of rain made the field full of water. Milk, what if this water goes into someone else's field? Mei Shui asked with a worried look on her face as she saw that there was someone else's field under her own field. It's okay. I'll go check if there's any opening in the field below. If I don't help open one, it's because the rice is not short of water now, but it's afraid of water. Okay, Grandma, I'll go down and have a look. Mei Shui looked happy as she looked at the rice that was growing better than the previous days. Other people's rice has turned yellow, but theirs has just been packed. There is not much work in the fields. After putting in the water, you wait for it to dry. Once it is dry, you can go back. With nothing to do, Mei Shui soaked her feet in the stream. The cool water was very comfortable. Grandma, he was watching from the side, with a slight smile on her face when she saw Mei Shui's happy face. Don't soak in the water for too long, be careful if you catch a cold, or you may feel uncomfortable. No way, I'm in good health. Grandma took care of me. After finishing the work in the fields, Mei Shui did not put enough water into the fields because of the rain. Besides, she only put water in the fields last time, so it was enough. It turns out that the heavy rain has benefited the fields below. When I got home, smoke began to pour out of other people's chimneys. People who were busy outside also came back, and shouts came from every house. Such a peaceful and stable day makes Mei Shui very comfortable. After returning home and cooking a delicious meal, Mei Shui began to enjoy the future. Miscellaneous, why is there no electricity in our village? I saw that the whole town has electricity sitting under an osmanthus tree in the yard, Mei Shui asked as she looked down the mountain. Hey, why don't you pull it? But there are many people in the village who want to pull it, but most of them don't want to because they don't have money. Pulling electricity is not something you just say, you have to pay for it. You have to pay the electricity bill every month, which is all money. She didn't agree to get one of the girls in the past, but now that there is Mei Shui in the family, Grandma, he thinks it's time to get her. Someone will come to register again next month, and then our family will register. Grandma, he made up her mind. After hearing this, Mei Shui was very happy. Really, having light makes people feel at ease. The thing she dislikes the most is the dark night, so she fully agrees with the idea of pulling on the electricity. How much does it cost? You don't have much money, but Grandma still has the money to pay for electricity. Don't worry. Do you have it? She didn't, but it's time to send someone to bring the letter to Ans. He-Ans has two names, one is He-Ans, named according to the seniority of the He family, and the other is named He-Junkai, given by his mother. He is called He-Junkai to the outside world, and everyone in the village calls him He-Ans. Hyukao is also called He-Junkai. Grandma, he thought about asking her grandson to come back with some money and turn on the electricity first, so that it would be more convenient for them to live in the future. Meixu didn't know what Grandma he was thinking. Of course she didn't care about money. It didn't matter whether Grandma had money or not, as long as she had it. When I got up the next day, I heard someone crying in the village, which shocked Mei Shui. Grandma, what's going on? If you cry like this, Is it a dead person? Grandma, he was also startled. She hurriedly walked to the door and looked down. She saw everyone gathered behind the Zhengsong house by the creek. Grandma, he thought for a while and immediately said, Zhensong's parents are gone long ago. His wife is crying at this time. Who is in trouble? Meixiu didn't know Zhengsong, but when she saw Aunt Zillian and the others coming out, she immediately pulled her grandma and pointed to the side of her house. Grandma, he opened the door and walked out. As soon as you see someone, ask, what's going on? Those who had quick feet had already gone down to get the letter and were now running up. Third grandma, it was Uncle Zhensong's cow that was crushed to death. A piece of the mountain in their backyard fell off yesterday and hit the cowshed. The speaker is he and Wen, who lives in Aunt Zillian's house. He is 20 years old and currently earns money by cutting down trees at home. Hey, why did you drive the cows back home when you knew it was going to rain? The cows' heads in Shulai were all built under the Faishan temple. The ground there was flat and the land belonged to the team. On weekdays, no one takes their cows home because they smell too bad, so they keep them in the cowshed next to Faishan temple. It seems that the cow had diarrhea, so Aunt Zhengsong took the cow home. Now I plan to go see Uncle Zhengsheng. He and Wen was like a spy, and the information he got was complete. Mei Shui looked at the boy with admiration in her eyes. He was such a talent. After receiving the information, everyone didn't even make breakfast, and then went home to cook. The men went straight down the mountain after getting up and went to Zhensong's house to have fun. Various requests for new books, recommendation votes, collections. Don't stop giving rewards, thank you. End of this chapter.